Table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development. We have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect day.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this
quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us now, there's nothing. We are
to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. And you roommates as we discuss the situations.
Room on mainland 98.3 FM, your number one destination for incisive discussions on SOS today, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. every weekday, Monday through to Friday. We have discussions that has to do with happenings in our polity. In fact, immediate happenings in our polity. We do the budget. We will most certainly talk about it on radio. And today we do have to turn our attention to a situation that is both very urgent. We're talking local level, and we are attempting to navigate the complexity of our communities that are shaking us as a country. In fact, the entire country is in mourning, and we have leaders of thought, political leaders, religious figures, actually spoke about this. You could see how sober and how tearful he was when he will need for peace and safety in our communities. And in a show of solidarity, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has visited Benue State today, although his visit has been marred with a lot of controversy at the reception, which many has expected to be sober. He appeared there, but I think the most important thing is that he's there in Benue State, and we're hoping that his visit will yield a positive result at the end of the day. But the core of today's conversation on the situation, we want to explore the more expected of them. Are we adequately equipped to ensure the safety of citizens? What changes have become necessary to safeguard the communities from horrific instances of violence like the one that we've seen in Benue State? We hope to get answers to this question with the help of Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇᴜ Limited, and he's with us today as we attempt to dissect the topic, reevaluating Nigeria's security structure, federal, state.
It's my pleasure to be available this time. Thank you, listeners.
Yes. So let's get to the very core of this conversation. Let's talk about it, and you'd forgive me, we would reference Benue State a lot in this conversation, although we're having a very general security conversation. Many times we've asked questions, what exactly is responsible for this crisis? We would hear is farmer herders clashes. We cannot exactly pinpoint the root cause of insecurity in different regions of the country. It has become a task to draw different regions of the country.
Well, once again, thank you very much for having me. My name is Oʔbɪɪnᴏ. By word of emphasis, we know the company relevant considering the cool urban crimes around us. Now, actually, depending on the angle we look at it, some of them could be economic, some of them could be criminal, some of them could be political, criminal activities. All we need to do is to ensure that we isolate them and deal with them accordingly as a nation, as a country. And we do some commonality, peculiarities, and we should be able to identify. Isolate whatever be the causes and the issues and deal with them with a combination of approaches and ensure that the lives and property of
structures, as it were. For example, we know that security is mostly centralized, is controlled by the executive to get permission, for lack of better word, before we can see security agencies deployed to certain states. So what other weaknesses do you think exist within our without being abated?
The weaknesses are enormous. First of all, number of security personnel and the utilization is a critical factor because looking at the number of security personnel, about 360 up to 400 now. Looking at that, policing about 200 million people. Now, look at the left to guard the thing. You see, and again, those personnel are overstretched. Almost every part of the country have one spot of crisis or the other. So I think that is a critical issue, and that must be addressed. I believe we're able to address that centrality, and then even those who are there also are ill-equipped in the system that also give room for and a level of enlightenment, give room to recruit criminals who are...
Of the opinion, the federalization of the security forces, the fact that there's not enough security personnel, even the ones that are available, they're overstretched, and some of them are even deployed to other private assignments, and also they don't have it pull, and that's why they continue to have a field stay. All right, let's talk about complicity of locals and the inactions of certain sections of government. For example, the attacks in Benue State killed in one local government in Benue. 4 hours later, another 40 killed in another local government in Benue. So the consecutive nature of these attacks and the frequency of these attacks. So what do you say about the allegations that even some of the locals in these areas where attacks are very frequent this is just an excuse, or really you think there are some locals who...
There are always people who are within the environment that can feel that even if in organizations, they're always sort of localizing policing. Assuming we have a system that the police is localized, where the power is devolved to the people, and the people understand local saboteurs or so local complicity is out of it, because these are all criminals, these are all crime. The fact remains that there must be a way of dealing with it if we have our right architectural elaboration from the inside. But how do we identify those insiders?
Your account is too low for...
Oh, we apologize. We will get back to this program in just a minute. Stay with us.
And uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there's not. If there were...
In our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around the Situation Room, as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. can say to accept here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality one's dream. Join Oʞyemi as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. Every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you, roommates, as we discuss.
Welcome back. We apologize for that interruption. We are continuing with the conversation right this very moment. We are talking about re-evaluating Nigeria's security structure, looking at the federal level, the state level, and also what's going on at exploiting within our security system. And then we start as well as the kind of collaboration that should exist, policing or regional policing, and how we should localize security if we had to get a better outcome. We apologize for the disruption, sir. Welcome back. Please complete your thoughts.
Okay, sorry. I was talking about the issue of from the headquarters, poor coordination between federal and subnational security stakeholders. We also have a lack of community trust and federal forces, because the state police is your friends. The security forces are supposed to be collaborating with the locals, but the trust is not there. Inadequate security. That's a critical, and also the critical issue also remains the political interference and the weak intelligence gathering. And to a large extent, these intelligence are gotten. They claim that the holistic issues we have to look at, where the challenges cannot be addressed from a centralized point. We have to centralize those decision making and can identify strange movements and deal with it as much as possible.
All right, Nigeria's socio-economic stability. What do you think would be the consequence? Benue, for example, is supposed to be the food basket of the nation. I remember when the Mokwa Bridge had collapsed, complained bitterly that millions of goods had perished because they were unable to cross the bridge. There was a lot of insecurity going on in the region of the country. So if this continues for a long period of time, what sort of socio-economic problems do you think we...
Is the attack on every part of the country, because every part of the country, we know that right from the time when we started being where things used to be bought as cheap as possible, moving to every part of the world, every part of the country has become a mirage. Most of them are now in the IDP, land grabbing, has been accused. Whatever be the issue is that people must go back to farm. If not, the socio-economic impact is colossal. And if nothing is done urgently, it might lead to where people resort to self to address the issue We have already a lot of pointing at my point. I've been pointed or has been appointed to, and we call them bandits, whatever name we have with category of person. I believe the authorities are not able to handle it from that point. We have to look at all of that and see that Benue, from a chief chief, they coexisted and they had their way. They feed their heads, pay penalty for that, and they continue their business coexisting. So it's from the time the criminal elements started coming in, that will lead to a new turn of events in that place. I'm not going to end up in rhetorics again, because in recent times, the acting solution in the immediate and for a longer solution is to devolve power. And that's what happened in the U.S. In the U.S., we have the federal level security agencies, we have the state, we also have, but the municipal. I don't know why we continue the let Nigeria work and for have the courage to move away. But at the recent statement by the governor, the people, the president is after 8 years in his office. Coordination and purpose identified. And
98.3 FM, we're talking about how, or at least a minimization of the casualty figures that we record on almost a daily basis. Your perspective, Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇᴅ Limited, and we self-help. And so let's talk about that. This is not the first time that from America, yes, but then even in America, the Second Amendment allows them the right to bear and keep arms. Although that is a debate. That Nigeria is ripe to allow for an amendment or the freedom to bear and use arms, especially because of how volatile we are in. How can we try to do so? They can't bear arms, wielding AK-47s while wielding arms and defend themselves, or
this argument of about that, we are no longer a small, yes, it's 5 years, and then over and over again, we are developing. We're also like Nigeria, but some decisions we are taking to be able to any form of self-help. Maybe women sub-nationals, we pay the state, the exposure we are. Before we not talk about letting individuals, they just apply for it. If you are given, you can be diseased. Also, what I'm saying is that because we look at how they will coordinate in collaboration, we get to where we are, we continue the way it is. But as I said, Lord, I prevent us from doing that. Only that the current shouldn't be
Yes, arms, yes. But then even with the fact that if weapons get it in the hands, allowing security infrastructure, technology, for example,
that's happening.
Yeah.
You already see people get access to arms one way or the other. As the fears we are trying to that even to some level, you just get a license to arms. And those who get before we get to that point where people are okay, go and get these arms, these individuals actually, then this arm, there should be consequences. There should not be untouchable individual. Nobody who commits crime should be even brought to the subnational. Once people know that mischieviously activated, irrespective of whose ox is God.
Well, I was about to talk about security infrastructure before they actually happen. And it's quite surprising because I was watching the situation in Benue State. I did mention that I was attacked. It's just about, 20 miles maybe away from that place. There is a security, these things happen almost days apart, or maybe earthquakes. You start seeing red alerts sent to people's phones that is trying to prevent a high amount of casualties. But what do you think we need to do, especially so that we can prevent rather than try to repair when things have been damaged?
Police, we have not taken advantage of the Nīḷᴇ, our technology glance system that can pick situations. Apart from the fact that it's very, very germane and critical that we have to deploy technology to be able to do proper surveillance across the country, to the length and breadth of the country, even very, very encouraging. So the question is it because the intelligence of equipment to control structure, the personnel have act subnational? The other cannot be waiting for where it didn't happen and where it's happening. Enough people say that they even had intelligence and reported it before the time, and the respondent gathering. Sometimes too, the intelligence that are gathered by the accusations or was not prey. This level of volume of funds, politicians at all levels, I believe would have gone better than where we are. I think that must be another area that we have to actually find out what is needed. what is the should be held to account how those resources are being utilized and why are we having the experience we're having. Or is it that it's not enough?
It always takes the lion's share of our budget. I don't think there's a single year that any other item on the Benue, Borno, Zamfara can start evaluating security vote that goes to those states. Maybe an equality should be that every state deserves to have the same of attention when it comes to. We need to consider equity instead of equality, and maybe deploy more funds, deploy more personnel to these states to protect them. Can we work out a security structure like that one?
Is a security system that allocates their resources to where they feel they need them more. But I strongly agree that our harmonization and harnessing of resources should be that you can see along the road. For instance, the traffic corridor. You see the volume of security personnel in that 50 or more within a very short distance. And this is a combination of the Nigerian police, of constant banditry, killing of people. You have a few of such, and because only the personnel have to be reallocated. So they are assigned to any city or anything like that. No, the police, the military, or the.
I know that we distribute these resources equally. I meant.
Yeah, that's just what I have done.
Right.
So let personnel be taken to where the cases are actually more than
grassroots. There seems to be a divide in the thought process of the elite and the people who are actually victims of this insecurity. Well, thankfully, the president has visited Benue State, although in my introduction I did mention there's been a lot of controversy and people chastising the president is there. I mean, we've seen statements like, this is an exaggeration. I don't know if it was bio, and Nigerians don't experience the sort of insecurity that some other African countries experience, reality of the Nigerian people. So do you think that there's a huge insecurity has penetrated into the core of the country?
Because sometimes the way the level of presidents in Nigeria, the way they are what's been told. For instance, we have been bashing him that he said it was a communal clashing. Actors who give me a first-hand information, how to say the kind of thing that Bayo is saying, that are wiped out. I don't see the reason why it should be politicized. Make it look. You want to make the government more honorable to admit fully one person. It's very unfortunate to make that kind of statement. Also, try to begin to compare Nigeria with other part of the world. Must we be compared with where you are staying, respect to where you are living, whether in the remote or in the urban place? So nobody should say who said that he called the phone of about 7 persons, none of them among them that was killed. How can we continue that? That is the reality on ground. So irrespective of what also helped to widen the gap between the people paying. Identify with them, make them realize that yes, you understand what they are passing through. So I think the best thing is that the government should take responsibility of what has happened. I'll count as one of the best in the world. But why we appear to something, a crime is committed within a few hours, they are identified and picked. How come they now become the weak? You see them where the criminals, terrorists tie them and shoot them. And so we must just have to do something about it. It's not something to deny about. Whether it is being denied, I don't want to be deceived. He should seek for the real information of what is happening and not just to rely on what people tell him, because a lot of people might be psychopaths around him to try to make him feel good, to try to be done drastically, and that must be done urgently to save the life of the people. What's that part of the why can we consider that Nigeria is not at war, and yet we're having more casualties? Even Iran and Israel that are at war have not recorded the kind of
all the different security forces we have. There seems to also be a problem with collaboration among all our security agents. How do you think we can create a system that they're able to communicate, they're able to aid each other? We see it happen. How can we ensure something like that is replicated within our security structure here in Nigeria?
That's very important and very fundamental. Now, about the issue of state policing with constitutional backing. To amend the constitution. Number 2, strengthen community policing at the local level. Put them under supervision of the state police or under the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps. So they will focus on intelligence sharing, intelligence strategy alignment, the state or the local government. Nobody should claim superiority over the other, but just because they're working apart to share, to address the same issue. develop a clear road definition across all levels, so that it's not sometimes what happens is sometimes you realize our current security should be clear road definition across all levels, and the role, whether the federal government, the federal level, the state, local agencies, to reduce only from overlap and assign primary responsibility based on their type of get informant and surveillance technologies we have talked about here before. Let each chairman will be held responsible for this surveillance of the environment, the same thing with state. Once anything happens anywhere, all the architectural tiers will have those information shared at the same time. Standardized training and code of conduct, so that all personnel, whether it's right as well as non-partisanship, so that the security agencies get them well equipped, get them well any power drunk anybody. Decentralized security funding allow this and all of that. They provide security funds, they provide like Lagos do that. So use performance established states that include the security agency who not treat civilians as if they say they are rats. No. Provide drones. And so that you can realize, speak now. Any or environment, to even report it, the trust is not there. So we need to build that trust. And because even when we give power to the subnational, that civil engagement and trust, public trust building must be done to encourage communities' cooperation, so that they will know that they are doing this thing for themselves, and they'll be able to identify those who are the bad eggs among them, thing that must be done to be able to take care of the situations we have on our hands.
My guest is Obinna Okafor. He is managing consultant, CEO, Vɪᴄᴜ State, for this sad conversation that we had. Let's talk about how the international community can assist Nigeria. And maybe it's time we call for foreign mediation. Do you advise that we turn to the foreigners to come and help us? We turn to mercenaries to come in and help us?
I will not advocate getting mercenaries, foreigners to come in, because the ones we are suffering today does not manufacture the kind of arms that these guys use to come and terrorize us. So you can't really say this is where the source of their funding. Let's empower Nigerian security. Let's deploy security into the subnational relief. If we allow security down for them, because where those guys come, don't just come blatantly where they are coming. They don't come, and when they go there, they successfully go, and that time they go to another area. But when they discover that all those areas will stop them, and that will stop the political will to deal with the source of this funding of these criminals. Their source, let's man our borders well, let's man our airspace well. All those unauthorized security service, our secret police agencies, is a very sound and intelligent organization, which I respect very well. They have the information, they have the dossier of what is happening. So there's nothing hidden. They don't come out to talk openly, but the country will be fully secured. That's what I think.
Strategies that can be implemented to mitigate the risk of retaliatory violence, especially don't seem to be hearing anything about it, as poisoning their crop them, and it's just an endless vicious cycle. How can we ensure that in cases or like this, in communal clashes, farmer-header clashes, we can prevent retaliatory with farmer-header clashes and also communal?
What they call this association of Reed Magban, or that association that coordinates these headers, I will hold them squarely responsible, because during the last administration, they came out, they were so bullish, they were so vocal. Let me hold them accountable. The issue is that suddenly it became a crisis. It's not today that Nigeria started foundation, that the land is no longer enough. The land is no longer enough. Then always that farm. How come they are not just coming for the issue of this issue of enough? It's not just the mere clashes. There seems to be something more to it. Maybe like those people that took them over are occupying that place. So for what reason? If it was